Hello everyone, welcome to every one of you in our YouTube channel Gurmantra Shikshaka Granth. I'm your educator Saranya, and today we are going to start a new series, and that is numerical dose for GATE biotechnology. Okay, so we have been learning the theory courses, okay, theory lessons and lectures so far, and that will be going on. But I wanted to give you small doses of numericals every week so that you are becoming strong in the numericals also along with your theory. Okay, so theory anyway you will be very strong by the end of this lecture. Okay, by the end of this course you will be very strong in theory. But in GATE examination they do ask you so many numericals, and I want you guys to be prepared for that. So, what we have thought is to give you small doses of numericals every week so that you guys will become strong in numericals also. So, by this course, this series, what we are planning is to solve all the questions from the concepts of bioprocess and all the numericals that comes for you in the GATE biotechnology. Okay, all the numericals will solve from the PYQs. Okay, so all the numericals will solve from the PYQs, like the concepts of bioprocess, because there are few concepts in your GATE syllabus which we can cover through PYQs itself. Much in-depth knowledge is not required. Actually, if we go into studying the in-depth knowledge of those concepts, it is like never ending. It will go on and on forever. For that, those concepts, we can do the PYQs, learn the formula, understand the concepts, and move on. So, this course, this series will help you in solving all the numericals. Little by little, we're going to give you dose every week so as to make you strong in numericals also. Because, as you know, GATE Biotechnology examination has more numericals, so we want to target all those numericals also. So this is the part 1 of your numerical dose for GATE Biotechnology. Okay, so every week we'll be solving some numericals. Okay, so let's go. So this is the first question. The elemental composition of dry biomass of a yeast species is carbon, hydrogen 1.6, oxygen zero point 0.4, nitrogen zero point 0.2, sulfur 0.0024, phosphorus 0.017. Okay, so these are the elemental composition of the biomass. So they're asking the contribution of carbon to the dry biomasses. Okay, so they're asking from this biomass, what is the contribution of carbon? This is the biomass with their elemental composition. They have given for each element what is the composition present in the biomass. But they are asking you what is the contribution of carbon from this whole. How much carbon is present in percentage they have asked you. Also they have given you atomic weights of all of these elements. Very simple question. You just have to know how. After you get to know how to do this, any question asked in similar way in future, you'll be able to solve it within seconds. Okay, so let's see the solution. So, what are the elements they've given in the biomass? It's carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus. And how much it is present, which is given in this equation, which is given in this formula. The elemental composition, you can see carbon is 1, hydrogen is 1.6. That is what I have written here separately. Carbon is 1, hydrogen 1.6. This is the composition for each of it. Oxygen is zero point 0.4, then nitrogen is zero point 0.2, sulfur is 0.0024, and phosphorus is 0.017. So this is the composition of all the elements that is present in your biomass. This data is given. Okay, this data is given. So what we are going to do now is we are going to multiply this composition with their atomic mass. That is also given in the question itself. Okay, for every element they have given its atomic weight. So we are going to multiply it here. Like 1 into 12 is 12, 1.6 into, for hydrogen it is 1, 1.6, 0.4 into, for oxygen it is 16, 6.4, hydrogen it is 14, so 0.2 into 14, for sulfur it is 31, so 0.0024 into 31, then for phosphorus it is 32. This is the thing here I've written in black here is the atomic weights. Okay, the composition of each element should be multiplied with the atomic weights of the respective elements. Okay, then whatever you are getting as answer, you're going to add up all of these. You're going to add up all of these. So your answer will be 23.4184. Okay, so when you add all of this, the answer will be 23.4184. This is the total composition of all the elements which is present in your biomass. So what are they asking you? They are asking you specifically what is the contribution of carbon. Okay, how much percentage of carbon is present in the biomass. So percentage of carbon, how will you calculate? So how much of carbon is present? This one. Okay, so 12 divided by the total, that is 23.4184 into 100, because they are asking you in percentage. Now when you solve this, you will get 51.24 or 51.24 percentage. Okay, 51.24 percentage is what you get. That is the percentage of carbon contribution in the biomass. Okay, so this is the biomass. In this biomass, the percentage of carbon contribution is 51.24%. Okay, so this is how you solve this question. Okay, when they have given you the elemental composition, okay, and they are asking you the contribution of any one of the element. So what you do, you're going to make a table like this. Okay, you're going to make a table like this where you will write all the elements, its composition, multiply with its atomic weight. Okay, then you sum up all of it. This will be your total contribution of all the elements. Now they're asking you for carbon alone. So percentage of carbon is 12, that is present here, divided by total into, since they are asking you in percentage 100, you will get the answer. Okay, similarly if they ask you for hydrogen or oxygen or nitrogen, you can do the same. How much is the composition present? Like 2.8. Okay, 2.8 for nitrogen. If they ask you, 2.8 divided by total into 100, whatever answer comes is the percentage of nitrogen contribution in the biomass. Okay, so I hope you understood this problem. Very simple problem. If you find any problem similar to this, I hope you will be able to solve now within seconds. So let's go for the next question. Okay, so solvent A and B are completely immiscible. Okay, solvent A and B are completely immiscible. I'll explain you this through a diagram. So you can see this is a solvent A and solvent B. They are immiscible. So they will form different phases. They will form different phases based on their density. Here I simply put A and B. It can be anything. They have not given anything about the density, but for easy understanding, I put the upper phase as A and lower phase as B. Okay. So solute S is soluble in both these solvents. So there is a solute S that is soluble in A also and B also. Okay. So 100 gram of S, that is the solute, was added to a container which has 2 kg of A and B. You can see here 100 gram of solute is added to this container which has 2 kgs of A and 2 kgs of B. Okay, 2 kgs of A and 2 kgs of B. Okay, whatever is written in the question, okay, whatever is given in the question, first try to make a diagrammatic representation of it like given. This is what is given in the question, and it will be very easy for you to solve it. That is what I am doing here. I'm just reading each and every sentence and making a representation for me to understand. Okay, you can follow the same. Okay, the solute is 1.5 times more soluble in solvent A than in solvent B. Okay, so what they have given is they have compared the solubility of this solute in A and B. In A, it is soluble 1.5 times more when compared to B. So if it is 1.5 times more means the basic will be, you can compare it with 1. Okay, so B is 1. In B, solute is dissolving 1, and in A it is dissolving 1.5 times more. 1.5 times more. For easy representation of 1.5 and 1, I'm just taking off the decimal and just writing it as 3 by 2. You can write 1.5 as 3 by 2, right? So, what are they asking next? The mixture was agitated thoroughly and allowed to reach equilibrium. Okay, assuming that the solute has completely dissolved. Okay, solute has completely dissolved. So the amount of solute in solvent A phases. So they're asking after you put the solute in the A and B, then you mix it. Now they're asking what is the amount of solute? What is the amount of solute that is present in phase A or solvent A? Okay, we're going to find how much of this solute is present in solvent A. Very simple question. So, how much of solute is present in solvent A? First, tell me how much of solute is present in total 100 grams. Okay, so 100 grams. Okay, in A, how much is it dissolving? Three parts. Okay, three parts it is dissolving, that is 1.5 times. So 3 out of total 5 parts here. Out of 5 parts, 3 is dissolving in this, which means 2 is dissolving in this. So total is 5. So 3 parts is dissolving in A and total is 5. If you solve this, you will get 60 grams of A. 60 grams of solute is present in A. Now, I want to give you guys a small homework. Okay, small homework. I've told you how much of this solute is present in A. You solve and tell me how much of this solute will be in B. How much of this solute will be present in B? You solve this and in the comment section tell me how much it will be present. Very simple. I've told you how can you find for solvent A. You find and tell me how much of the solute is present in solvent B. Tell me in the comment section. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. The number of molecules of a nucleotide of molecular weight is 300 gram per mole present in 10 picomoles is. So they are asking you number of molecules in 10 picomoles. Okay, number of molecules of the nucleotide present in 10 picomoles. Simple, very simple to solve. So 10 picomoles, how can you write it as? 10 into 10 power minus 12 moles. Pico means 10 power minus 12. So I'm just simplified this 10 picomoles into 10 into 10 power minus 12 moles. We know 1 mole will be equal to 6.023 into 10 power 23 molecules. They're asking you number of molecules. Okay, 1 mole is this much means how much is 10 into 10 power minus 12 mole? You simply have to multiply it. So 10 into 10 power minus 12 into 6.023 into 10 power 23 you will get, if you do this, okay, if you do this, 10 into 10 power minus 12 into 6 into 10 power 23. Now you solve this. 10 into 10 power minus 12 is 10 power minus 11. 6 into 10 power 23. If you solve this, you will get 6 into 10 power 12 molecules. So 6 into 10 power 12 molecules are present in 10 picomoles. Okay. So this is how you find the answer for this question. Very simple, right? Actually, you see, bioprocess questions are very simple. All you have to know is how to solve them. Okay, how to solve them. If someone gives you same question like this, but some different values, will you not be able to solve? Definitely, you will be able to solve. The problem with numericals is if we understand the type of question, if we understand the type or the model, we'll be able to solve the rest of the questions similar to that. Okay, so in this numerical dose, that is what we are planning to do for you. That is, we are going to show you all the types of models of questions present that has been already asked in GATE Biotechnology examination so that you are familiar with all of these concepts like how to solve a question. So a similar question when comes to you in examination, you are so confident that you solve that question right away and it is also correct. Okay, so let's go for the next question. Okay, a block of ice at 0 degrees Celsius. Okay, a block of ice at 0 degrees Celsius is supplied heat at a constant rate to convert ice to superheated steam. So they are going to convert ice to superheated steam. So what will happen? Ice will melt into water. From water you will get steam. Which of the following trajectories correctly represent the trend of the temperature of the system with time? So they are increasing the temperature with respect to time. They are asking which of these graph correctly depicts the reaction where the ice is getting converted to steam. Okay, so let's find out. So what happens is understand the concept of this. Very interesting actually. You have a solid block of ice. As you are applying the heat for some time, it will be ice only. It will not immediately melt into water. Like giving temperature to ice, okay, it will not immediately melt into water. It will take some time to melt every each and every molecule of that solid into liquid. So it will take some time. Okay, in the same temperature itself, it will take some time to form liquid. So this time taken by the ice or the solid block to convert into liquid is called as molar heat of fusion. Okay, so this is the molar heat of fusion that is required to convert the ice into liquid. Okay, then after you increase the temperature, the state of liquid will be maintained. It will be liquid till it reaches 100 degrees. Till it reaches 100 degrees, the ice which has been melted will be liquid only. After 100 degrees, what will happen is it will take some time for the liquid to get converted to heat. So the temperature will be maintained for some time. It will be still in the liquid state only, and after that it will get converted to steam. So this time which is taken by this liquid to get converted to steam is known as molar heat of vaporization. After this, it will be getting converted to steam. So this is what they are talking about, like how a solid block of ice is getting converted into superheated steam. So what is the graph it will be following? So this is the graph it will be following. Let's see in the options which graph matches this one. So option A matches the graph with the explanation. So A is the correct answer. Okay, so this is the next question. Very simple question. You can see the longer the question is, which means it is very simple. Actually, that is a truth. It's a trick. The longer the question, the most simplest it is. Okay, you can see, you'll see how simple this one is. You have W, X, and Y are the intermediates in a biochemical pathway as shown below. Okay, this is the substrate that is getting converted to product Z, and W, X, and Y are the intermediates. Okay, mutant oxotropes for Z are found in four different complementation group. You have mutants Z1, Z2, Z3, and Z4. That is supplemented with media. Okay, what is supplemented in the media? The intermediates are These W, X, Y, Z are supplemented in the media for these mutants. Okay, W, X, Y, Z is supplemented in the media for these mutants. Yes means growth is observed. No means growth is not observed. Okay, so let's see here. These are the mutants Z1, Z2, Z3 and Z4, and media is supplemented with W, X, Y, Z, which are the intermediate, and this is the product. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, Z1 when supplemented with W does not grow. When supplemented with X does not grow. But when it is supplemented with Y, it grows. And when it is supplemented with Z, it grows. So Z1 when supplemented with Y, yes, it grows. And when supplemented with Z also it grows. So in the option, we are going to see the Y which is supplemented with Z1 that is found in the option B. So this is the correct answer. You can simply tick and go. With one option, with just one thing, you have found the answer. But let's do the rest also. Okay. Z2 when supplemented with W, no growth. But when supplemented with X, Y and Z, yes, all of this is showing the growth. So let's see in X. Where is X? This is X. X here. It should be supplemented with Z2. That is in option A and option B. Since we have already made option B correct, you can see X is supplemented with Z2 and it will grow. Okay. Next is Z3. Z3 when supplemented with Z only it grows. So Z3 when supplemented with Z. So C Z it should be supplemented with Z3. That is option B. Similarly Z4 is supplemented to W and it will grow. Okay, so this is how you just have to match it. You just have to match the option and find the answer. See how easy it is, right? It is so easy. But if you did not know how to solve this before, it might seem so difficult that we might even skip this question. It is a very easy question. But you have to know how to solve this. This is a model question. Take this as a model question. If someone give you a similar model question, you should be able to solve it now, like within seconds. Like from Z1 itself, I solved the answer to be B, option B. Okay, that much easy this question is, isn't it? So let's see the next question. Okay, in the reaction catalyzed by hexokinase, the two half reactions are and their values delta G naught are as follows. So they given you two reactions and their delta G naught value, that is free energy change value they've given you. Okay. So glucose plus phosphate gives you glucose 6 phosphate plus water. And for this the delta G naught value is plus 14 kilojoules. We know as a standard rule that if delta G naught is positive, if delta G free energy change is positive, which means it's a non-spontaneous reaction. It will not happen by itself. That's why this reaction is coupled with ATP hydrolysis. Okay, so when the delta G value is positive, it means it is non-spontaneous and that reaction will not occur. So what we can do is we can couple this reaction with another reaction. We can couple this reaction with another reaction whose delta G value is more negative. Whose delta G value is more negative when compared to this. Okay, you can see this glucose with phosphate reaction is coupled with ATP hydrolysis. ATP is providing the energy and its delta G value is minus 31 kilojoules, minus 31, which is more negative. So now they're asking for total delta G. If you do the total delta G, that is if you add these two, you will get minus 13 plus 14, you will get minus 17. You will get minus 17. So now when you couple the reactions, the total delta G value, the net delta G value is minus 17 kilojoules. So now the delta G is in negative. What does it mean? It means that the reaction is spontaneous in nature. The reaction is spontaneous in nature and it will occur on its own after you couple it. So let's see what they are asking in question. The delta G for the conversion of glucose to glucose 6-phosphate with ATP as the phosphoryl donor. They are asking the net delta G value. That is, when you add these two, what is the net delta G value? That is option B, minus 17 kilojoules per mole. You see how simple this question is? Can you even imagine they given you two data, if you add this and whatever value you are getting, that is the answer. Can you imagine this? This much easy question it is. Okay, so numericals in gate biotechnology are so simple like this only. But if you do not know the meaning of this question and how to solve this, even this little bit step will seem like a huge thing and you will simply skip it. And my intentions over here is to make you well enough, strong enough in these concepts that when you see a question like this, you solve them within seconds and you never skip any numericals. Okay, so because numericals are the ones which will give you so much marks. Okay, it will give you so much marks. The only thing we have to know is how to solve them. And I am here over to tell you how to solve them. I'm over here to teach you how to solve them. Can you imagine any simpler question than this where you add some two value and you get the answer? But if you do not know about the concept where coupling ATP hydrolysis and all is happening, you will not know. You have no idea what is this delta G value, what is this delta G value, and what are they asking. Will never know. So these numerical dose series will help you in understanding these type of questions and how these type of questions can be solved easily. Okay, so this is our part one. Stay tuned for more of these series which I'll be bringing for your own good. Okay, so like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel Gurmantra Shiksha Ka Granth. You can contact us for any queries in our email, and if you want you can contact us through our phone number. Thank you so much and have a nice